X-Power. Do you know what it is? Have you heard of it? Do you enjoy X-Power? Can you feel the power? Is it within you? What is the power of X? The unlimited power can be yours for the low price of...
So today I would like to talk to you about X-Power, though you may know it by its legal name, the hydraulic press. This tool is pretty good for some jobs, and it's not so great for other jobs. But for the jobs that it's good for, it's pretty good. So the reason why I want to show you how to use the hydraulic press today is because I need to press my new wheel bearing onto my new wheel hub. And if you're wondering why I'm replacing my wheel bearing and how I knew it was time to replace my wheel bearing, so I noticed the other day when I was changing my tires that there was a little bit of play in this wheel bearing. But that basically tells me that this wheel bearing has become worn out and is ready to be replaced. Of course, before I replace this wheel bearing and hub, I need to remove the old one. So I've already removed the brake system to get it out of the way. Now all I need to do is remove this axle nut. Oh wait, I think I actually need that. A few other things I'll have to remove to get at this wheel hub are the tie rod end, the lower ball joint, and I will have to also disconnect the strut. Then this whole wheel knuckle assembly should come off, hopefully. And it's just that easy. I've got my steering knuckle here. Now all I have to do is take it over to the hydraulic press and press out the old hub and bearing and press the new ones in. See you there. So let's talk about this machine for a little bit. It may look somewhat familiar, and that's probably because it is. This is basically an iteration of a bottle jack. These kinds of jacks are often found in the back of a car. These are meant to be used in emergency situations, like if you've got a flat tire on the highway or if you need to do some kind of roadside repair. Usually, these jacks use hydraulic force to propel something upwards, like a vehicle. And of course, when I'm talking about hydraulics, I'm referring to something that utilizes fluid to create movement or power. The way that these jacks often work is that there is a valve that can be closed to create pressure in the hydraulic cylinder. And then once that valve is engaged, you can push on this smaller piston to move the larger piston. It usually takes quite a bit of time to get even just a little bit of movement, but that smaller amount of movement travel translates to more power applied. So this jack works the exact same way. The only difference is that the top or the ram of the jack is secured so that there can be no movement upward. And so rather than moving upwards, the movement is translated downwards through use of this somewhat mobile platform that is secured along the side rails and tensioned by springs. So this is what happens when we close our hydraulic valve. It allows for pressure to be generated inside the hydraulic system, and then all we have to do is pump the jack lever. And you can see that that force is translated downwards. And this can actually transmit a force of up to 12 tons, which if you are half decent at math, translates to 24,000 pounds of downward pressure, which is a lot. So we will definitely want to be wearing some of these. Once we have achieved our goal, or if we need to bring the jack up for whatever reason, all we have to do is release the hydraulic valve. And these springs will pull the jack back up into its resting position. So now that we hopefully understand how that all works, I'm going to show you how we can use this to achieve our dreams.
Make your dreams come true!
So my first goal with the steering knuckle is to push the wheel hub out. So the hub looks like this and it is pressed into the bearing. So I want to push the hub out. That was close.
That was a close one.
And then after I've gotten the hub out, my goal is to press the wheel bearing out of this side. One of the hardest parts of using this machine is actually getting your workpiece set up in a way where it will function effectively. So I believe I have it in a way that is safe and functional, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so it is coming out. The only issue is I've run out of clearance, so I will have to do something to boost this up so that I can push it out further. Okay, so this is something that is happening. It's not an ideal setup, but luckily I do know that it is coming out with very little resistance, so I know that there will not be a whole lot of tension in the system while this is being pressed out the rest of the way. And there you go. So, the old hub is out and it took the bearing race with it, so we can actually see in here the insides of this bearing. And before I start to press out this old bearing, there's actually a large snap ring in here that I'll want to remove before I try to press out, because otherwise I'll be coming up against a lot of resistance from the snap ring. And lucky you, you're getting a double whammy today, because I'm going to show you how we can use snap ring pliers to remove a snap ring. So these snap ring pliers, hopefully you can see they've got two little fingers there, and those fingers fit perfectly inside the loops of the snap ring. So the only thing that we really need to know about these is they can be adjusted to either pull rings apart or to squeeze rings together. Right now, when I'm squeezing, it's actually going to pull a snap ring apart. So what I want to do is I want to move this bolt into the other hole, and that way the snap ring pliers will be working the way that I want them to. So now when I squeeze, it will actually pull the snap ring together, which is what I want. So I'll show you how I can do that. One thing I do want to mention is that these are basically springs, so when they're compressed, they have a lot of potential energy, so we will want to be careful when removing them and probably wear eye protection, which I am, of course. So, like I said, these things can really move. So now that that snap ring is removed, I can press this bearing out of the steering knuckle. Sometimes we have to get a little bit creative because the press is a very specific size. And so sometimes, like in the case of this bearing, it is smaller than what I need to press out. So in some contexts, as long as we are careful, we can use things like sockets to aid in pushing the bearing out. So now this socket is large enough where it will apply force to this surface, which is what we are trying to press out of the steering knuckle. There you have it. Once we've got the steering knuckle all cleaned up, we can then start the process of pressing in our new bearing. So sometimes you have to get pretty creative with your setup, and so what I've actually done is use the old bearing as a support while I'm pressing in the new bearing. So that went in pretty nicely. The only thing is we have to get this a little bit more recessed because there is a groove for the snap ring. So I'm gonna have to get creative again to get this a little bit more recessed into that cylinder. Okay, so we're going in reverse order now. I believe that I've pushed the bearing far enough back into that housing that I'll be able to reinstall the snap ring. You can see it's nicely seated in that groove there, and it's not going to let the bearing back itself out. Now all I've got to do is press this new wheel hub back into the bearing and steering knuckle. So this whole process is very tactile, meaning it has a lot to do with physical feedback that you're getting from the machine. If you feel like there's a lot of resistance and if you're feeling a lot of maybe grittiness, you might want to back off and reassess and potentially reassemble, because that might mean that you're installing something sideways when it should be going in straight, or maybe there's something that's gotten into the surface that you're pressing together. So just make sure that you are paying attention to the feeling that you are receiving from the machine, because it will be letting you know if you are doing something well or not. Now all I have to do is reinstall the steering knuckle with the new wheel hub, and I can go home. So hopefully that was enough learning for you today. It certainly was for me, and I'm looking forward to our prolonged awkward silence with no additional questions. Talk to you soon.
Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Just do it! Yes, you can!